Okay, so our first unit is learning about children. Yay! Okay, so this is a very basic, introduction to child development overall. So the essential question that we are going to answer during this unit is how can studying child development help you interact with children in the future? Because I hope that's the reason that you decided to take this class, is because you want to interact with children better or get to know yourself better. But we all know that in the future we're going to have to interact with children at some point. So how is taking this class going to help you interact with them better? I'm going to ask you guys this question tomorrow. And if I don't, remind me, please. So think about it. All right, so the first section is about understanding child development. Our objectives for this lesson, by the end of it, I want you to be able to define what child development is. I want you to be able to describe the 4 different domains of child development, summarize the 6 stages of the individual life cycle that involve children, and then explain how heredity and environment influence growth and development. Development is the gradual process through which babies become adults. Child development is a scientific study of children from when they are conceived all the way up until adolescence. So technically, you guys are part of child development. Okay? The individual life cycle is a description of the changes that people experience throughout life. Development begins at conception and will continue until your very death. Ugh. The process of development has many stages, like before birth, then infancy, then childhood, adolescence, and finally adulthood. Like lifespan development, child development is concerned with the whole child and the process or changes that occur in both growth and behavior. Okay, growth is a change in size, like height, or in quantity, like vocabulary. Changes in behavior would include any change in motor skills. Motor skills are your ability to kick a ball. That's your large motor skills. Your ability to write involves your fine motor skills. So it involves changing in motor, any thinking skills. For example, you were not able to think critically about things until you were about 12 years old. So that was a big change in behavior that you went through. And lastly, social skills. Okay, you are probably a lot better at talking to people and making friends than you were when you were 3, and you might hit somebody and then not know why they didn't want to be your friend anymore. Okay. Experts have divided the individual life cycle into age-related stages. Each stage of life has unique opportunities, achievements, and challenges. You guys think of any unique opportunities or challenges that you might have currently during adolescence? I want you to think about that. Okay? This book, this whole course is going to cover the first 6 stages, which involve children. So that is the prenatal, neonatal, infancy, toddler, and preschool and school age or middle childhood. And half of those are going to be, the majority of those, half of those, are going to be covered in Child Development 2 if you decide to take that class. The 4 domains of child development, okay, so basically the 4 areas that children develop in that can describe all of the different ways they develop are physical, intellectual, social, and emotional. And often social and emotional get kind of lumped together, and they will for this course. So physical development involves the growth of the body and the development of your large and small motor skills, like we talked about on the last one. You weren't always able to write words, so over time you developed the ability to do that, and your fine motor skills had to increase significantly in order for you to be able to do that. As well as, you probably weren't able to throw a ball to somebody when you were very little, but now hopefully you can. Okay, so your large motor skills had to develop significantly for you to be able to do that. Intellectual development includes how people learn, what you learn, and how you express what you learn through language. So intellectual development also includes language development, like a vocabulary and pronunciation, articulation, etc. Okay, so it includes, what you're learning at what ages, which we will talk about throughout this course, and how you are going to learn it best, and how you are going to express what and how you express what you know. Okay? Lastly, social emotional development concerns your interaction with people and social groups. That's the social part. So how kids interact with each other at certain ages is what we will talk about. And the emotional part is the child's disposition and how they display their emotions. For example, when you're very, very little baby, you don't have a lot of different emotions. It's mostly just happy and sad. Just like in the movie Inside Out, where first it was joy and sadness, and then eventually other emotions came along. It's the same. That is real life. They did a very good job with that. So we will talk about different emotions that kids have as they get older and what happens. All right, so there are factors that influence your growth and development. Okay, environment, heredity and environment combined, heredity affected by environment. Okay, so the environment are the conditions and situations that surround and affect a child, both physical and social. So an example would be a child who grows up in an impoverished environment where they don't always have food to eat. Okay, that's part of their environment. Okay. Whereas heredity and environment is a combination of nature and nurture. Heredity is all your genes. So your genes say some certain things about what you are going to grow and develop into, but your environment greatly affects it too. Okay? So for a really long time, people argued about which affected people's growth and development more, their heredity or their environment. It was called nature versus nurture. I'm sure you've heard about that debate before, and we will have our own nature versus nurture debate in class. A few examples of the interaction of heredity and environment together, though, because they do affect each other. It's not just completely nature or nurture. An example would be that your genes control how high you can grow, so they control your maximum height. However, if you don't get enough food in your environment, so if you're not getting fed enough, then you'll never reach that genetic potential and you'll never get as tall as you can because you didn't have enough nutrients to reach that height. Okay. Secondly, your potential intelligence is something that is inherited, but physical factors like nutrition and rest and the quality of experiences you receive in your youth determine whether you will reach your full potential for intelligence. So yes, it is partly true. If you have really, really smart parents, you have the ability genetically to be really, really smart as well. However, if you never got the right nutrition, the right food, or you didn't get enough sleep, or most importantly, your parents didn't provide you with enriching experiences that really created more brain connections, then you will never achieve what your potential was. So say your potential was to have an IQ of 160, but because of your environment, you only have an IQ of 130. Okay, which 160 is like genius level, but anyway. Okay, and then the last example is that some of your basic social emotional traits are inherited, but they are greatly affected by your experience. So, if one of your parents has like a super bubbly personality and they're just like happy all the time, but you aren't, you probably inherited genetics to be that same kind of happy bubbly as your parents. But if you had some experiences in your youth that kind of dissuaded you from being that way, then it's possible that's why you are not that way. Okay, so genetics and environment do affect each other. They do have a big effect on each other, and it's not just one or the other, but we are going to argue which one we think is more important. Okay, so the different stages of child development, and we already kind of talked about, but I'm going to give you a timeline. Prenatal is from conception to birth. Neonatal is birth to month 1. Infancy is from month 1 to 12 months. Then we've got toddler from 12 months to 36 months, which is 3 years. And then preschool from 3 to 6 years, and school age from 6 to 12. And then after that, of course, is adolescence. So the prenatal stage, the rate of growth during this stage from your conception to your birth is the fastest it will ever be in your life. In this stage, a child grows from a single cell to a complete organism that can walk, talk, breathe, do everything, eventually. Okay? Even before birth, babies can move. They can recognize their mom's voice patterns, and they can react to really strong stimuli, like really bright lights. At a certain point, babies can sense them and will kind of move away from them while they're still in their mother's womb. The neonatal period is the next period, and that is when the baby physically adapts to life outside the mother's body for the first month. During the infant period, infants develop the foundation for motor skills, thinking, language, and social skills. So that's their whole first year of life. They're building a foundation for these because you need to build a foundation before you can, get up higher and do more complex things. You got to go from simple to complex always. So they're building that very beginning foundation. Toddlers will make great strides in their motor, their thinking, and language skills, and they begin to test their dependence on adults. So toddlers will often do the me do it kind of stage. My little brother was known as Mr. Me Do It at age 2. He wanted to do things for himself. Okay, that's very big during this stage. The preschool stage is the next one, and the child becomes a lot more self-sufficient, and they can spend many hours in play exploring their physical and social world, and they begin to develop knowledge of themselves as well, too. They start to be able to describe who they are, okay, but very basic at first. And then school age achievement is the central goal during the school age years. They master the basics of reading and writing and math. School age children will interact with their peers more and learn a lot by group instruction. And during this stage, it's really important to learn self-control. But before the end of the school age stage, children have rather stable feelings about themselves, and they know how others feel about them too. So those are just some brief overviews of some major things that happens during each of the developmental stages. Okay, so factors that influence growth and development. So heredity, like we kind of mentioned very briefly on that one. Heredity are traits that are passed from a child from a blood relative, a parent. So genes are the sections of the DNA molecule that are found in the cells that help determine your traits. And genetics is the study of heredity. So we sometimes call heredity nature. Like we said, the environment and a child's surroundings also play a huge role in their development. Environment includes all the conditions and situations that surround and affect. Sometimes environment is called nurture. Babies will inherit about 23,000 genes from their parents. Genes carry the inborn instructions to help make who you are. A person's genes are called your structural genome. Like computer hardware, this genome determines the boundaries of what is possible for you. So it determines the boundaries of how intelligent you will ever be. It determines the boundaries of how tall you will ever grow. It determines the boundaries of your hair color, your eye color, etc. Genetics is the study of the factors that are involved in passing your traits from one generation to the next. Almost every single physical, intellectual, and social emotional trait that you have is influenced by your genes. They affect some parts of growth and development more than other. They determine your body features like your blood type, your facial structure, the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, the color of your skin. Other genes can affect a range of traits such as height. These genes will determine a trait's potential. Potential is the greatest amount or level possible. A healthy diet will help a child reach their highest potential. Okay, so if you want your child to be 6 foot and that's what their genes say they can't be, you got to make sure that they're eating their vegetables. So this next concept for child development is pretty wild. All right, so bear with me. It's called the epigenome. Basically, it consists of chemicals that can turn your genes on and off. Okay? It's built through positive or negative factors from your environment. It is impacted by stressors, okay, any situations that may cause anxiety, and changes are passed from the mom to child during prenatal development. Okay, so basically what this means is that your body has the epigenome, and if something negative were to happen, like you got really stressed out because you saw domestic violence in your home, you saw your mom getting beat up, okay, the epigenome might release a chemical that turns off one of your genes. And maybe that gene was your ability to become really, really intelligent later in life. Okay, that stress, that chemical that it released because of that stressful event turns off that full potential for you. Okay, so you want to have really positive environmental factors because you want good genes to be turned off and you don't want, or turned on, and you don't want good genes to be turned off. You want them to stay, okay? Or you want bad genes to be turned off. Okay, so positive environmental factors include health. So being in good health physically is going to lead to better results for your baby, better outcomes. Quality learning experiences, so providing them with lots of experiences like going to the zoo or the children's museum, just really trying to get them to learn different things. Lots of toys, books, and then having supportive and loving relationships with their parents is very important too. Negative factors include toxic substances, having poor health practices. So toxic substances would include like tobacco or alcohol. Having a poor health practice, so not eating well, lack of quality experiences with objects and people, and then some stressors. Stress can be beneficial and harmful depending on the level of stress and how often and how long your body's stress system is turned on for. Having loving and responsive people in your life reduces the effects of stress. The more loved and cared for you feel, the less stressed out you will feel. Without these people, problems can occur even later in life. The epigenome can change throughout your entire life. Positive and negative experiences from when you are conceived in the womb up until 12 months, so up until 1 year of age, that has the most lasting effects on the epigenome. Okay, so any adverse experiences that you have while your mom is pregnant with you or while you are a baby all the way up to 1 year of age, they're not erased. They can affect your overall well-being for the rest of your life. Changes then in the epigenome, both positive or negative, can then be passed down to the next generation if they occur in the unborn. So if they occur while it's still in the womb, if changes to the epigenome do. So what this means is that it is so important to take care of your kids and make sure they have a really positive first year of life. It's actually really important for the first 5 years of life that everything be very positive because that sets your kid up for the rest of their life, for a more positive life the rest of their life. But that first year is absolutely critical because of the way that the epigenome works.